For years, I thought that my self-worth was tied to my body and how it looked to others. And it wasn't until I stepped away from relationships, from men, that I truly got to know my body and that I could start detaching my self-worth to my physical appearance. So today I want to talk about body image and liberating yourself as a woman from the attachment to external validation, especially from men, and how that can shift your whole perception towards your body and your relationship with your body, and how you can start healing your relationship to your body when you've felt like your worth was tied to your body and to the way that you look. So to me, this really was a journey from self-objectification to self-acceptance. I want to start with a little bit of a backstory, so how my body image was shaped throughout the years. As I started coming into my womanhood, my curves started to show and I started going to the gym as well. And I initially started to go to the gym just to maintain weight and to put on a little bit of weight because I'm naturally very skinny and I wanted to put on some weight. So I started going to the gym for health reasons, and then slowly I started noticing my body changing and shifting, and I also started noticing how my body changed the way that men perceived me and the way that they would respond to my body. And over time, I started to look at my body and myself through the male gaze. I started thinking, oh, what would men find attractive? In the way that I would dress myself, or the way that I would put myself out there, was very focused on, oh, what is going to be perceived as attractive? What is going to be seen as sexy? And as I started tying the value of my body to the male gaze and to outside validation, I noticed as well that my own relationship to my body started to shift. And I started to internalizing that my shape, or how much of my body I give away, is the most interesting or the most valuable thing about me. So once I started internalizing this belief that my body is the most interesting thing about me, my body is the most valuable thing about me, my sense of self, my interactions with others, they were all influenced by this belief. So the desire to be seen or wanted or valued for my body became almost automatic. So the turning point for me here was when I started decentering men from my life. I went celibate for almost 2 years and I didn't date any men. I didn't talk to any men, and I noticed that everything started to shift, and what came forward for me most was how much I had abandoned my body in the process and how much of my self-worth I had attached to external validation. So my whole self-image was wrapped up in being perceived some kind of way. And once I took that source of self-worth away for myself, I noticed, okay, well, what does make me feel worthy? And I started becoming aware of this internalized belief that I had, tying my self-worth to my appearance and to my body, and to the idea I had that my body was the most interesting thing about me. So for the first time, I was faced with the question of, who am I outside of the male gaze? Who am I outside of external validation? Because I let that external validation shape me. I let that determine my worth and how good I felt about myself. And it wasn't until I took that away that I started realizing that. And that's often tied in with this performance as well. If you think that your body is the most interesting thing about you, you're going to perform in a certain way so that you get a certain result. In this case, which was validation. Once you stop that performance, you're left with yourself and you're left to ask, okay, but who am I behind the curtains? Who am I behind that performance? And I feel like as women, it's so important to come back to yourself and to come back to your truth. And it even makes me emotional because we as women growing up in a society where the male gaze and where male validation is so valued in such an unhealthy way, that we tie our self-worth, that we tie our enoughness to something outside of ourselves, to men perceiving us, which creates such a big disconnect between yourself and your body, which is this beautiful sacred vessel. And that's what I slowly started remembering, is that your body is so sacred. So that's what I slowly started to remember, is that your body is so sacred, especially as a woman. You're a portal between the spiritual realm and the physical realm, and your body deserves that reverence. And when you tie the worth that you feel about yourself only to your body and how it can serve men, that's already such a disservice to yourself as a woman and your inherent worthiness and your inherent sacredness. It was just a complete reshaping of how I see my body, my own relationship to my body, my relationship to external validation and to men. So it was just a whole reshaping process. So when I started intentionally stepping away from relationships, that's when I truly created space to be with myself, to be with my body, and to not have any external expectations placed on me, to be without the weight of that. So it's just me and the relationship that I had with my body, and no one else was involved. And really bringing it back to myself in that way felt so liberating, because I didn't have to live up to certain expectations. I didn't have to look a certain way to please someone. I didn't have to perform or behave in a certain way to get someone to like me, because there wasn't anybody that I would want for them to like me. You know what I mean? Like, I completely decentered men and stepped away from relationships, from dating, from interacting with men on that level, completely revoking access to my body for anyone but myself. And that felt so liberating and so heart-opening and so healing, because I could just let go of anything outside of myself and really see and be with myself. So it's a process of de-sexualizing the way that you see yourself. Women are so over-sexualized, and once you take a step back from that space where you can be sexualized, you can start to recondition your brain, because being in a society like that, it just conditions your brain that you are to be sexualized. And once you take yourself away from that environment, you can desexualize yourself and realize your body is not something to be lusted after or to be wanted. That's not what your worth is tied to. That's not why your body is here. It's here because it's your own sacred space. So without the influence of men's attention or societal expectations placed upon me, my body became a source of connection rather than a source of validation. And that shift changed everything for me, because that's how I started getting closer and closer and closer to my true expression and a healthy relationship with my body. So this journey led me to a place of so much more appreciation, so much more love, and so much more acceptance for all parts of my body than just the ones that are conventionally attractive or conventionally wanted or highlighted. When there is no one to perform for, you can just really embrace your beingness and your fullness and your authentic expression, whatever that looks like for you. And you can find that as well, because the only one that you're doing it for is yourself. And that's when it becomes authentic, is when you're not attaching value to anything outside of yourself to determine your worth, or to determine your expression, or to determine even the way you dress yourself, the way that you carry yourself, the way that you look at yourself, and the way that you have the relationship with your body. I started to truly appreciate my natural womanness, like my natural shapes, my I always, when I was younger, I would always like suck in my stomach. Always. I would do that because you need to have a flat tummy and a fat ass. And that's like what I internalized. So that's what I thought I should look like, to be liked, to be accepted, to feel worthy, and to be loved. And once I didn't have anyone to perform for anymore, I stopped doing that. I started releasing my belly, like all the tension that I held around that. And now, it's just like, even for pictures or videos or just when I'm out, I don't feel this pressure to suck in my stomach, because I can accept my belly for what she is. And I love her. I love my belly. It's like, it's so soft and nice, and it's just like, I don't want it to be looking like a certain way so that other people may like it or accept it. I just want to feel relaxed and safe and soft and appreciate my curves in a way that feels good for me. And this felt so liberating, that I didn't have to put on a show anymore for anyone else, because I didn't tie my sense of self-worth to external validation anymore in the same way I had before. And I really started embracing my body as a sacred space for me alone, and really defining what that means for you. And for me, it felt so heart opening to come back to the natural sacredness of my body. Just the natural sacredness of who I am as a woman. And what that looked like for me was just, there's a new sort of reverence that comes with healing your relationship with your body and liberating yourself from external validation. There's this reverence, this recognition of how sacred your body is, how sacred the vessel is. And there's that remembrance of that, because you're taking away the layers that block that knowing. I believe that as women, we all have these internal knowings of truth, but we don't remember them. We forget them because we have these layers on top of them. We have the layer of external validation, the layer of needing to perform, the layer of wanting to be liked, and the layer of tying attachment to how we're perceived, which are all blocking that inherent sense of wholeness, of sacredness, for who we are. And once you start taking down those layers, gently peeling them off piece by piece, with so much self-compassion and love, you start to remember your truth, and you start to remember your sacredness, and you start to come home to yourself as a woman. So I just want to invite you to reconnect with your own body, and do this in any way that you like, whether these are self-love practices, or if you really want to radically shift, practice a period of intentional singleness and celibacy. And this can be as short as 1 month, as short as 3 weeks, and as long as 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, a year, 2 years. Whatever feels good for you, but just really having the intention. Intention is so important here. Intention of coming home to yourself, intention of returning to your body's sacredness. And just really, even if it's a small practice that you want to do, like a small ritual of just self-love and just a moment of connecting with your body, have that intention be there. And I also just want to invite you to take a moment to reflect on what your relationship with your body feels like right now, what it looks like, how connected you feel, and where you feel like you may be performing for others, where you feel like you're externalizing your sense of self-worth. And just sitting with that, reflecting on that, being kind to yourself in the process as things may come up. And consider as well what expectations you may be holding on to that aren't serving you, and then looking at how you can release them and start to embody more freedom and authenticity and self-love. I hope that this video brought you a little bit closer to yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.